We not only have the news of what happened this week, we also have some peeks into the future in our news today. This week's video is dedicated to Vladyslav Heraskevych, the skeleton racer who gave up his personal dream so as to remember the athletes killed by the invaders of his homeland, because remembrance is not a violation. And hey, members of the corrupt International Olympic Committee, what do Putin's boots taste like? You've been licking them long enough to know. Greetings Romy, you're watching RomWrom, the channel sharing the joy of sim racing and a regular news roundup, our weekly sim racing news. Not only do we have interesting software updates to tell you about this week, but also a first look and more information about Endurance Motorsport Series, the newest one by Nakon Racing, where seemingly you can be chief engineer or race driver, or both. This year will again be pretty interesting for anyone who wants to race at the computer or console. We're not prejudiced. Project Motor Racing dropped their latest patch 1600 on February 12th. The headline change is a complete overhaul of the LMDh physics. The developers say they've made these cars more predictable and realistic, which sounds nice until you realize your old setups are now basically trash. They've shifted the default brake bias much closer to 50-50 and resized the rear brakes based on real-world data. So go and fix your brake balance all over again. The LMDh class also got new tire revisions that work better in cold temperatures, plus tweaks to engine modeling, upshift and downshift tuning, transmission behavior and ABS settings. It's a comprehensive refresh that should make these cars feel different from the ground up. General physics improvements include better collision handling, transmission driveline fixes, gear handling, ignition stability, and brake temperature issues. They also fix collision cleanup when cars get teleported. Say what? Career mode got weather and time of day variation. We'll see how much variety that actually delivers in practice. They also fixed an issue where championships could include tracks you don't own, which seems like something that should have been caught earlier. Beta validation now prevents missing DLC or mods from breaking your career saves. Online play receives stability improvement. Vehicle damage is now enabled in ranked mode, and they've patched several exploits in the scoring system. There was a fix for a particularly nasty bug where players would fall through the world when someone quit the lobby, plus issues with black screens and incorrect grid positions. Also fixed is a soft lock that could happen during leaderboard updates and a bug where the racing line would stop working if someone in the lobby became unready. NPC opponents got smarter with better braking logic, throttle response and handling for understeer and oversteer. Pit stop logic improved, along with safer pit exits and rejoining behavior. They've also adjusted NPC tire wear to match human players more closely, which should make races more competitive. Multiple NPC-related crashes were fixed too. The penalty system now has improved track limit detection with better margins and accuracy, fixed incorrect penalties at Nordschleife and Lexington, and added safer detection for drivable surfaces outside track limits. Tracks got refinements to ground collision materials to support the penalty system better. 3 LODs were improved along with alpha clipping and billboard optimization, and they fixed texture issues, clipping, LOD distance settings and color saturation on walls, curbs and terrain. Those annoying micro gaps in ground surfaces across multiple circuits are now fixed. Rendering saw a bunch of fixes. Shadow LOD inconsistencies are gone, exposure handling improved with better cockpit masking, rear view mirrors on consoles work properly now, reflection quality and anti-aliasing in mirrors look better. Fog fade issues, cases where the sky would turn black and near fade artifacts are now fixed. You also can't disable atmosphere quality anymore, which was apparently an option before. Vehicles got better windscreen reflections and materials, cockpit displays and gauges were improved across multiple cars. The Porsche 992 GT3R specifically got improved cockpit vibrations, and they also fixed a bug where certain cars would turn off driving assist despite them being enabled. UI changes include better minimap behavior and performance, and if you're using a controller, there's now an input display graphic on the bottom left of the HUD. Controller calibrations and dead zone issues are fixed, support for Thrustmaster and Logitech wheels improved, native support was added for Phantom Pro pedals, SimJack UT pedals, Bash Pro H shifter, Simpson H shifter, PXN V10 Pro wheelbase and A3 pedals, Pokorny GTE button box and 3D Wrap vintage paddles. Stability improvements include better handling of corrupted or missing profile data. The team fixed rounding errors in lap time calculations and MOTEC displays and improved thread locking and synchronization in NPC and rendering systems. Modding and DLC handling got clearer validation and error reporting when content is missing or incompatible. A long video by Nakon Racing brought some news regarding Rennsport, an endurance motorsport series, but that comes later in this video. A new update is scheduled for early March, which will include new free content and the first part of the Endurance Classics DLC. As free content, they'll drop the Kuala Lumpur Street Track, a mod done by the Legion of Racers, who were responsible for the Orchard track that is available for free on Rennsport already. Also dropping will be the Road Atlanta Short and the Fuji Speedway Short layouts. As we already said in past news, the Hyundai Envision will also be released as free content. The mentioned Endurance Classic Part 1 DLC brings 3 cars, the Porsche's 911 GT1 from 1998 and 956 and the Mercedes CLK LM. After this DLC, they will release what they call a Touring Classics DLC also as Part 1. Other than this, their plans for the rest of the year are to fill the car classes they already have in the sim with the cars missing of those classes. As I just said, Nakon Racing also disclosed some information about Endurance Motorsport Series in the same video. First of all, they've launched their own Discord for the game. See the link in the description of this video if you're interested, and while you're at it, come visit our Discord too. What they say in the video is that you can manage 3 cars simultaneously, either all alone or online in a co-op mode. The makers of this are the same studio as Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown, by the way. In line with that, it will not be a sim with full simulation physics, but rather a simcade racing game with added management features. Would have been difficult to compete against Le Mans Ultimate anyway. No date has been announced yet on when it will release, other than the promise it will happen this year. Let's see if it sticks. The game is expected to be a full release with all features, same as Project Motor Racing, and see how that came out. But let's not compare apples and oranges right now. The twist of Endurance Motorsport Series is of course that you can be driver and chief engineer, taking either position however you like. The solo play experience will be similar to that of the usual motorsport managing games, allowing you to get better mechanics, engineers and NPC drivers the more you succeed. All in a setting of endurance racing. This mode will allow you to add friends who play with you in co-op mode, which may be a very interesting experience. While there will also be a PvP mode where you race against up to 24 other players, their main focus for multiplayer is the co-op mode, which I gotta say it's quite interesting, and I hope they can get the idea to fly. Here you'll have teams of 3 competing against other teams of 3, and while they don't say explicitly, from the images they provide you will be racing on tracks that exist in real life. Oh yeah, and it will feature the Lamborghini SC63 as well as the Huracan Evo 2. While ACEvo's management is still looking for the path the sim is going to take in the future, see the link up there, the team nonetheless released version 0.5 to the public this week. On the content side, we're getting 8 new cars spanning several decades and disciplines. The Audi Sport Quattro arrives with a differential locking system, while the BMW M2 Coupe comes in 2 variants. Caterham fans get the 485 CSR in 3 flavors, and the Dallara EXP is here for open-wheel enthusiasts. Porsche comes with a 911 GT3 RS in 2 variants, Toyota's legendary AE86 Sprinter Trueno shows up in 4 variants, and the classic Volkswagen Golf GTI Make 1 rounds out the roster. 2 new tracks join the game, with Circuit Paul Ricard offering 4 layouts and Watkins Glen bringing 4 layouts of its own. Career mode has been disabled entirely, which is a pretty dramatic change. The developers removed the game mode selection on startup, so the game now loads directly into open mode. If you bought cars in career mode previously, they should appear under My Cars in open mode, though that is doing some heavy lifting here. The big change is the complete rework of track cut penalties that actually sounds pretty intelligent and in line with what ACC does and similar to what AC did. The new system evaluates whether you actually gained time from cutting, and if there's no gain, there's no warning. If you did gain time, you get 500 meters to give it back, while a widget shows whether you're successfully giving up the time. Fail to give it back and you'll receive penalties ranging from warnings to time penalties to drive-thrus to stop and goes to disqualification, depending on how much time you kept. The developers also added the ability to set different track limit rules for individual corners, aiming for more natural limits that don't penalize you where going wide already costs time, like gravel traps on corner exits. SimGrid Daily Racing took another step forward, with car selection now based on mechanical variants, and your customized cars are checked for eligibility. Instead of direct joining, you now go through the server browser to pick your preferred visual setup or livery. NPC fuel estimation got fixed, along with a bug that let time lapse start and finish during session overtime. There was also an issue where self-exclusive customization items could overlap, which has been addressed. Physics changes include a new launch control system applied to existing compatible cars, an improved differential model, and enhanced aero map interpolation that now calculates additional data points for more nuanced behavior. The developers describe this as an under-the-hood revamp of dynamic weather track simulation and server client syncing, which will apparently require ongoing calibration and future updates. Solid rear axles can now have adjustable camber and tow, which expands setup options for certain cars. Individual car updates hit over a dozen vehicles with varying degrees of attention. The BMW M2 CS Racing got reworked setups and better balance. The BMW M4 GT3 Evo received aero and heave spring updates, while the Audi RS6 got all-wheel drive improvements and a slight power bump. Multiple cars received various setup, aero, damper and differential updates. Find the full list following the link in the description of this video. ESC calibration for modern sports cars was tweaked to improve realism while keeping things fun, whatever that means in practice. Several cars had specific fixes addressing asymmetrical setups, inconsistent setup limits and gear ratio problems. A dual clutch transmission gear sequencing issue that affected multiple cars was also resolved. UI improvements include gear widget indications when ERS limits are reached, functional blue flags, car electrics functions in the multifunction display, a new pit stop controls MFD page, and HUD notification priority settings. Your last selected car now persists across menus, which, if you ask me, is one of those small conveniences that should have existed from day one. You can paste server credentials from the clipboard and hide UI overlays in the main menu and paint shop. The pit menu leaderboard now shows player tire compound, and various menu icons and localizations were updated. Graphics updates include dash display improvements for the SF25 with a lap counter in race sessions, and the F40LM now uses the racing driver model instead of the regular one. Free camera mode is enabled and visual customization options expanded for several cars. Minor visual tweaks hit the Toyota Supra MK4 and Renault 5 GT Turbo, while steering wheel positions and driver animations were updated for the Ferrari SF25 and BMW M3 CSL. Light scripts were updated on multiple cars and a couple of customization bugs were squashed, including one that didn't toggle optional items correctly with incompatible selections and another involving exhaust emitter positions on variants. Rendering improvements include better indirect rendering for cube map shadows, DLSS updated to version 4.5, and decals MIP mapping implementation to reduce flickering of tire marks and banners at distance. Audio changes include Ferrari SF25 volume adjustments, new bodywork damage sounds, file size optimizations, reworked launch control audio, and updated sound positioning for road car bodywork. Share memory updates include new physics channels, blending when the game is paused, and disabled output while the setup page is active for anyone using external telemetry tools. Le Mans Ultimate released its latest patch 123, no really, that's the number, on Tuesday, February 10th with updated hypercar tires which brought a new balance of performance to match, plus adjustments to traction control maps and brake heating parameters. Force feedback got an equalization pass across all hypercars and electric motor power output inconsistencies were corrected. Damaged model tweaks made the rear wing and suspension stronger while weakening the engine. There was also a fix for soft tires appearing extremely shiny when traveling faster than 24 km per hour, which is oddly specific. Several exploits got patched out, including a co-op free pit stop trick involving handovers and reassignments, plus a race start exploit that let players do burnouts or speed up and slow down without proper penalties. Jump starts weren't always receiving penalties before, and that's been corrected. Unserved stop-go penalties from qualifying were resulting in 0-second pit stops during races, which has been fixed. Race starts saw improvements with NPC spacing now more even during fast rolling starts, and getting teleported to the pits at race start previously showed you in first place for a full lap, which was confusing, but is now resolved. Limited tire rules received several fixes around damaged and detached tires no longer being reusable, better logic for tire replacement when picking up damage, and the pit menu current tire selection now updating properly when it becomes invalid due to allocation changes. The auto blip model was improved to fix excessive rear locking, particularly affecting LMDh cars. Track limits got stricter with harsher penalties for time gained after rejoining, and illegal pass monitoring wasn't removing cars in the pit lane correctly before and now does. Track limit strictness was occasionally changing after pit stops, which has been addressed. Replay mode fixes include a crash when loading replays from the menu while in the co-op screen, the ability to change HUD options in instant replay mode, and lap count no longer showing as 0. Telemetry was losing the last 10 seconds of data when saving to file, which is now fixed. User interface improvements cover layout formatting in race results and styling issues with the SR label in daily race cards. A missing message when no weekly or special events were scheduled has been added. Server stability improved with fixes for a rare crash and an intermittent hang when transitioning from qualifying to race sessions. Track updates hit 5 circuits with varying levels of attention. Sebring had pit entry track limits fixed on the full circuit layout. Bahrain got missing collision added to the Armco barrier at the end of the pit wall. Silverstone received Goodyear arches in the fan zone, and near the BRDC, a rally handling center was added, and leaving the last pit box before pit exits no longer triggers a track limits violation. Paul Ricard saw the most work with reinforcement barriers added behind Armco barriers in various locations, minor prompts scattered around the circuit, curb control inconsistencies fixed, rain gaps filled, curb grip increased by 2%, run of road mesh topology optimized, and bollard materials and positioning tweaked along with various other asset material adjustments. Individual car updates touched most of the grid in minor ways. The Peugeot 9X8 LMH and Aston Martin Valkyrie LMH had their aero component renamed from front diffuser to front wing, with the Valkyrie also receiving aerodynamics spring rates and skid block adjustments. The Cadillac V-Series R LMDh had vertical seat movement limits adjusted and see-through rims on the lowest level of detail fixed. The Oreca 07 LMP2 got MPC performance tweaks primarily for Spa and the same see-through rim fix. The BMW M4 LMGT3 had interior levels of detail rebuilt for better quality. The Porsche 911 LMGT3R had an object poking through the rear body removed. Ouch. The Chevrolet Corvette Z06 LMGT3R fixed a disappearing grille issue at distance. The Alpine A424 LMDh updated its HUD for 2025. The Lamborghini SC63 LMDh corrected its template. The Peugeot 9X8 LMH with wing fixed the windshield edge issue. The McLaren 720S LMGT3 Evo added a missing toe strap on the highest detail model. The Aston Martin Vantage AMR LMGT3 corrected an issue on main body models. The Ligier JSP325 LMP3 fixed rear wing damage settings. GT3 cars received a minor balance of performance review and track limit target lap times were reviewed across all cars. And if you want to keep getting our news, subscribe to the channel and like the video if you liked it, that is.